你好，祝你有美好的一天。这就是频道 Celebrity News Today 247。这是今天的新闻。
The costume TV series Jade Bone Yao starred by Xiao Zhan and Ren Min on New Year's Day. The film Suilan New Year's Day Congratulations was broadcast. Actually, I haven't been able to find a suitable word to describe the feeling that Xiying, the actor played by Xiao Zhan, gives me. When the show first started, I said he was sparse but not thin. When the film Cause and Destiny was broadcast, I saw his helplessness, and pain again. In general, how does he feel about me? I think he is the kind of typical Into the Red Dust. In fact, this kind of role is quite difficult to create, because he must be in contrast. Xiying in the TV series Jade Bone Distance must be cold and lonely at first. It is precisely because of this early loneliness that the whole process of stepping into the red dust is moving. So I am especially looking forward to seeing the contrast between his early and late periods. Enthusiasts will eat up. It will be more and more beautiful and more touching. I really want to know how he will move his heartstrings. I always like this kind of process, this kind of contrast. With Xiao Zhan, I always like to look at the comparison with the same scene, always pleased that he fits the characters in the same scene to show different abilities, and be impressed by it forever. The difference in the same scene is the most test of empathy and talent. For example, in this snap, the two roles played by Xiao Zhan, Wu Shen and Xiying, are completely different. Xiying is obviously sweeter than Wu Shen. Wu Shen is clear and sparsely lit with a little warmth. Like a bright moon, it felt cold at first glance, but in fact the moonlight was shining warmly again. As for Xiying, the corners of her lips slightly, like flowers waiting to be planted in spring. The whole is still implicit, but there is already a bit of sweetness in the wind, not so strong, but anyone who has blown the wind will know that the wind is sweet, because the flowers are about to bloom in the spring. In fact, according to the overall character, Wu Shen should be sweet, while Xiying is as sparse as the moon. But why is there such a difference? That's because the mood of the characters is different at this moment. Wu Shen was still a teenager, and in the scene he was in, there is no need for him to show the sweet side. And Xiying, he is already in the dust at this time, and there is a person in his heart. It's the kind of I laugh when I think about it, even if I just dream of it, people who can laugh. So, he will naturally be sweet. These two scenes are really touching, and they are even more interesting in comparison. Before commenting on the Xiying in the TV series Jade Bone Remote, I said he was like a flower waiting for the wind to bloom in spring. Although it hasn't fully bloomed yet, but there is already a bit of sweetness in the wind. Not particularly noticeable, but it can't be ignored. When you walk past, you will know that this flower is about to bloom. But this time, what he gave me is not this feeling at all. The last time it was sparse and sweet, and this time, it was quiet and peaceful. This time, Xiying played by Xiao Zhan is like ice and snow melting on the branches of plum blossoms. It is the sentiment of banishing immortals into the mortal world. His state is actually very self-sufficient, but every look in his eyes, every action tells me that he cares about the person in front of him. Emotionally strong, but self-sustaining in behavior. This is the most expensive. The heroine Juyan walked in front, and he followed step by step. At the same time, he raised his head tentatively to look at her. I guess the two people here must have said something happened. So he would have this tentative move. He wanted to know the mood of this person at the moment. When he found that he was smiling, his eyes changed immediately. It has become that kind of greed, and there is a sight to follow here. Because Juyan has been walking forward, he wants to keep looking at this person. He must follow the line of sight. This is actually a manifestation of extreme care. Look, he didn't say a word, but he already told me the answer. Looking up at Wang Jialanhuo, and then at her, there is actually another change of mood here. At this time, it is no longer the kind of high-temperature ribbon, but solemn. At this time, he has already made plans for his future life. That's why there is the feeling of lights, sparks, moons, and moons are not as bright as you. In the crowd, holding hands with Qing, over the years, waiting for the future, is already the best thing I can think of. This feeling has changed very well as a whole. and Xiao Zhan's performance is very hierarchical. The lighter he is in the early stage of the TV series, the more he can reflect the contrast that this person brings to him. I will never see enough of banishing immortals into the mortal world. And from Julian's point of view, at this time, the two people should have been connected. That's why I look at each other in the lights of thousands of families. Mocho has no confidant in the way ahead. No one in the world knows the king. Xiao Zhan gave this sentence to Xi Ying, but I wanted to give it to him. Author, She. Produced by the Bone Film Critics team.